Your reality, their rules, exposing the mind games designed to control you. Have you ever suddenly questioned your own memory or felt responsible for someone else's unhappiness even when you knew it wasn't your fault? This unsettling experience is often the work of psychological manipulation, a subtle yet powerful force. It slowly erodes your sense of reality and control, impacting your mental well-being. We're diving deep into these hidden mind games using insights from behavioral science to empower you to spot them and reclaim your power. Have you ever found yourself in an argument, absolutely certain of what happened, only to have someone insist it went down entirely differently, leaving you questioning your own sanity? That unsettling feeling is often the signature move of a master manipulator, twisting your reality until you no longer trust your own mind. It's like someone constantly moving the goalposts in a game you didn't even know you were playing. Take gaslighting, for example. Imagine you agreed with your partner on a Friday night to hit the beach on Saturday, making plans to build sandcastles. But then, come Saturday morning, when you mention grabbing your swimsuits, they look at you blankly and declare they never agreed, claiming they hate sand. You specifically recall the conversation, the excitement, yet they insist you're imagining things, repeating their denial until you start wondering if you really did misremember. That's gaslighting in action. It's an insidious form of psychological manipulation where someone makes you doubt your perceptions, memory, or even your sanity. It's not just a disagreement, it's an active attempt to undermine your grasp on what's real. Where does this bizarre term even come from? It's pulled straight from a 1938 play and later a 1944 film, both titled Gaslight. In the story, a husband deliberately dims the gas lights in their home and then denies anything has changed, trying to convince his wife she's losing her mind. The wife, faced with undeniable evidence contradicted by her husband's unwavering lies, begins to question her own perception, which is exactly the manipulator's goal. This tactic often starts small, almost imperceptibly, before escalating. A casual denial here, a subtle dismissal there, slowly chipping away at your confidence. Over time, these little jabs add up, and you might find yourself losing trust in your thoughts, emotions, and even your fundamental understanding of events, making you vulnerable and overly reliant on the manipulator's version of reality. Psychological research on abusive relationships consistently highlights gaslighting as a core component of emotional control, undermining the victim's self-esteem and autonomy. But gaslighting isn't the only way people bend your reality. What about those moments when someone points a finger at you for exactly what they're doing themselves? Welcome to the world of projection. Think about spilling milk all over the kitchen floor. Instead of owning up with a simple, "Oops, my bad," you turn to your sibling and accuse them. "Why did you make me spill that?" You're basically tossing your own mistake, your own uncomfortable feeling, right onto someone else's lap. Projection is a classic psychological defense mechanism, often discussed in the framework of psychoanalytic theory, where individuals attribute their own unacceptable thoughts, feelings, or impulses to another person. It's like a psychological game of hot potato, where you throw your uncomfortable emotions to avoid dealing with them yourself. Someone feeling deeply insecure might constantly accuse their partner of being jealous or untrustworthy, not because there's any real evidence, but because those are their own lurking fears about themselves. It's a way for the ego to protect itself from uncomfortable truths, making it seem like you're the problem, not them. This doesn't just confuse, it can deeply wound, creating a distorted mirror where you see their flaws reflected back at you. Then there's blame shifting, a close cousin to projection, but with a slightly different flavor. While projection might be about transferring internal feelings, blame shifting is about external actions and consequences. You just got caught red-handed for forgetting a crucial deadline. Instead of admitting the oversight, you quickly retort, "Well, I wouldn't have missed it if you had reminded me." Suddenly, the spotlight isn't on their screw-up, but on your supposed failure to babysit their responsibilities. Blame shifting is the ultimate dodge, a tactic where someone avoids taking responsibility for their actions by redirecting fault onto another person or external circumstance.
It's like they have an invisible shield, deflecting all incoming criticism straight onto you.
This strategy allows manipulators to protect their fragile ego and avoid any negative consequences, leaving you feeling unfairly accused and questioning your role in a situation you didn't create. In studies on interpersonal conflict, blame shifting is often identified as a barrier to healthy resolution, preventing genuine accountability and fostering resentment. They might even twist the narrative so expertly that you start thinking, wait, am I actually the problem here? It's a calculated move to maintain control and keep you off balance, constantly making you question your own culpability. Ultimately, these tactics, gaslighting, projection, and blame shifting, are all about distorting your reality and making you doubt yourself, eroding your self-trust until you become vulnerable to their control. Have you ever been handed a heavy bag of guilt you never asked for? Suddenly feeling responsible for someone else's unhappiness? Or found yourself apologizing when deep down you knew you were the one who felt wronged? This unsettling dynamic is often the work of manipulators who expertly play on your natural empathy, turning your desire to connect and resolve conflict into their personal leverage. It's like they found the emotional strings and are giving them a good yank. Let's unpack guilt tripping first. Imagine you've been swamped with work, missing a friend's call for a few days. Instead of them simply saying, "Hey, I missed you, let's catch up," you get a text like, "I guess you're just too busy for me these days. I wouldn't want to bother you with my problems." Ouch, right? Suddenly, you're not just thinking about catching up, you're feeling like a terrible friend, burdened by their implied disappointment, even though you didn't intentionally neglect them. That's guilt tripping in action, a manipulative tactic where someone tries to make you feel responsible for their negative emotions, discomfort, or even perceived failures, as if it's somehow your fault or your job to fix their emotional state. It's not about genuine communication, it's about control. At its core, guilt tripping is about influencing your behavior without directly asking or healthfully expressing needs. Instead of saying, "I need your help," they might say, "I guess I'll just struggle alone, like always." This subtly pushes you into action, driven by a desire to alleviate your own discomfort stemming from their implied suffering. Why does this work so often? As social creatures, most of us naturally want to avoid letting others down and are hardwired to seek harmony in our relationships. Our brains, in a way, act like an internal Bob the Builder, wanting to fix everything, especially when we perceive ourselves as the cause of someone else's pain. This cognitive bias towards maintaining social bonds, even at our own expense, makes us particularly vulnerable to guilt as a manipulative tool. Research in social psychology often points to this desire for social cohesion as a pathway for such influence. But here's the kicker. You're rarely the true cause of their feelings. They're simply using your sense of obligation to steer your ship in their favor. It can leave you feeling emotionally drained, like you're constantly doing all the heavy lifting in an emotional gym for someone else's benefit. You're left with all the emotional weight while they gain control without lifting a finger. The manipulator may not even be consciously aware of the depth of their tactic, but the impact on you is undeniable. Now, let's talk about another masterful play on your empathy, playing the victim. What if someone got caught making a huge mistake, like gossiping about a coworker? But instead of owning it, they immediately launch into a detailed account of how stressed they've been, how hard their life is, or how everyone always misunderstands them. Suddenly, the conversation isn't about their actions, it's about their profound suffering. They're putting on an Oscar-worthy performance, hoping you'll hand them the award for most pitiable. Playing the victim is a manipulation tactic where a person exaggerates their problems, feigns helplessness, or twists facts to appear as if they are constantly under attack or dealing with an unbearable life. This isn't about genuinely needing help. It's about deflecting accountability and coercing others into offering sympathy, concessions, or even apologizing for confronting them in the first place. You might hear lines like, "How can you be mad at me after everything I've been through?" Or, "Nobody appreciates how much I sacrifice." It's clever because it directly targets our human instinct for compassion.
We generally don't want to pile on someone who appears vulnerable or distressed, and manipulators exploit this reluctance. This psychological strategy, often observed in dynamics of learned helplessness or external locus of control, allows them to avoid responsibility while gaining power.
This maneuver effectively shifts the attention from their wrongdoing to their perceived plight, making you feel guilty for even bringing up the issue. By painting themselves as helpless or unjustly persecuted, they create a powerful emotional shield. This can make others back off or even apologize for confronting them, effectively giving the manipulator a free pass. It twists the dynamic, turning accountability into a pity party, where the person with the most dramatic story wins, not the one who takes responsibility. Both guilt-tripping and playing the victim demonstrate a sophisticated understanding of human empathy, using it as a weapon rather than a bridge for connection. They compel you to take on emotional burdens that aren't yours, ultimately compromising your emotional well-being for their gain. Recognizing these tactics for what they are, calculated moves to exploit your compassion, is the first step in disarming them. What if someone arrived in your life and swept you off your feet with an overwhelming flood of affection, or seemed to perfectly understand your every thought right from the very first conversation? This feeling of instant, profound connection can be incredibly powerful, making you feel like you finally found the one or a soulmate. But sometimes, these intense early bonds aren't organic. They're clever traps, designed with hidden hooks to ensnare your trust and cultivate dependency. Let's talk about love bombing. Imagine this. One day, you're showered with flowers. The next, it's a surprise cake, then maybe a puppy, and before you know it, a new car appears, all from an admirer who claims you deserve every bit of this grand attention. On the surface, it feels like you're starring in a real-life rom-com, being pursued by your very own Disney prince or princess. This rush of extravagant gifts, constant praise, and unwavering adoration feels exhilarating, almost like winning the emotional lottery. But what's truly happening is a calculated maneuver to overwhelm you with affection so rapidly that you become emotionally hooked, almost addicted to the validation. Love bombing is precisely that, an intense, almost suffocating deluge of attention, compliments, and gifts designed to create a strong, albeit superficial bond in a very short amount of time. It's often the emotional equivalent of being hit with a fire hose of affection. This tactic plays directly into our deep human need for affirmation and belonging. Studies in social psychology show that rapid and intense positive reinforcement can trigger strong emotional responses, creating a sense of euphoria and immediate attachment. The goal isn't genuine connection, though. It's to create such a powerful, positive impression that your critical thinking gets sidelined. You might find yourself craving their compliments like emotional candy, making you dangerously susceptible to their influence. The twist is that once you're hooked, the same person who created this euphoric high might suddenly back off, leaving you in a confusing limbo, desperate to return to that initial honeymoon phase. This cycle of intense idealization, followed by subtle withdrawal, is a common pattern observed in abusive relationships and even in recruitment tactics used by cults, where it establishes control by making the target emotionally dependent. Then there's mirroring, another subtle yet equally powerful technique for fostering a quick, artificial bond. Have you ever been talking to someone at a party and realized they're using similar hand gestures, matching your vocal tone, or even adopting your posture? It's uncanny, isn't it? Suddenly, you feel an instant kinship, a sense that this person truly gets you, almost like they're a long-lost twin. This isn't always sinister, as mirroring can naturally occur in genuine rapport building. But it can also be a highly effective manipulative tool. Mirroring is the unconscious or conscious imitation of another person's speech patterns, body language, facial expressions, and interests. The idea is to create an almost immediate sense of familiarity and trust. Our brains are wired to feel more comfortable and connected with people who seem similar to us.
When someone subtly reflects your actions or adopts your interests, it triggers a subconscious feeling of rapport, making them seem more likable and trustworthy. Behavioral research confirms that mirroring nonverbal cues can significantly increase feelings of connection and empathy between individuals. For example, a salesperson might notice you're wearing a LeBron James jersey and suddenly start talking passionately about basketball, creating an immediate sense of shared ground that makes you more receptive to their pitch. Or a politician might subtly adjust their speaking style and values to align with a specific audience, aiming to convince you they understand your struggles because you talk the same or come from the same background.
It's about building a facade of connection that bypasses deeper scrutiny. Both love bombing and mirroring are potent tools in a manipulator's arsenal, designed not for genuine intimacy, but to rapidly cultivate an artificial bond that secures your trust and creates emotional dependency, setting the stage for future control. Imagine desperately needing to talk something through with someone, a crucial conversation that needs to happen, only to be met with an unyielding silence or the chilling coldness of emotional distance. It's like hitting a brick wall in a debate or trying to navigate a dense fog when you need clear directions. This feeling of being utterly ignored or deliberately shut out is a hallmark of manipulation that weaponizes absence itself. Let's first break down stonewalling. Picture this. You're trying to discuss a significant issue with a friend or partner, and instead of engaging, they clam up completely. You might ask, "Hey, what's going on?" and receive a blank stare, a non-committal "nothing," or a dismissive "I don't want to talk about it." You might find them physically turning away, avoiding eye contact, or simply walking out of the room. It feels as if they've suddenly erected an invisible, impenetrable barrier between you, making genuine communication impossible. Stonewalling is precisely that, a manipulation tactic where a person intentionally withdraws from a conversation or interaction, refusing to engage or respond. It creates a psychological barrier that prevents meaningful dialogue from continuing, leaving the other person feeling utterly powerless and unheard. This isn't just about taking a moment to calm down. It's a deliberate refusal to participate in the exchange. Why do people do this? Sometimes, an individual might feel genuinely overwhelmed or emotionally flooded, shutting down as a self-protective mechanism, which is a common stress response. However, when used manipulatively, it becomes a calculated strategy to control the conversation, punish the other person, or simply avoid accountability. It's like a child hiding under the covers during a thunderstorm, hoping the world will simply forget about them. But in an adult relationship, this tactic inflicts real damage. Dr. John Gottman's extensive research on relationships identifies stonewalling as one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, a predictor of relationship breakdown due to its severe impact on effective communication. It's a silent power play where the stonewaller holds all the cards by withholding information and interaction. This tactic can be incredibly harmful because it blocks the flow of communication, much like a traffic jam on a vital highway prevents anything from moving forward. The person on the receiving end feels ignored, invalidated, and deeply disrespected, leading to profound frustration and festering resentment. It creates a stark power imbalance where one person dictates the terms of engagement by simply refusing to engage, leaving you in an emotional limbo, desperate to break through their fortress of silence. It's like being perpetually stuck in the dreaded seen zone on a messaging app, knowing your message was received but being denied a response. While it may seem less outwardly aggressive than yelling, stonewalling can be just as, if not more, damaging to emotional connection and trust. Now, consider a different form of calculated emotional distance: love withdrawal. You and your partner have a disagreement. Maybe you wanted to go to an Italian restaurant, and they insisted on a French bistro. Instead of working through the minor conflict, they suddenly become cold. They stop being affectionate, your texts go unanswered, or you get the infamous silent treatment. It's as if they've abruptly hit the pause button on all emotional connection and intimacy, leaving you bewildered and wondering if you've fundamentally broken the relationship.
Love withdrawal is a manipulation tactic where one person in a relationship deliberately pulls back their affection, emotional support, and sometimes even physical intimacy, making their partner feel anxious, guilty, or insecure. The manipulative partner dials back on communication, makes physical interactions rare, and creates a chilling emotional distance. You might be sleeping in the same bed, but it feels like there's an Arctic emotional frontier between you. This tactic plays on our innate need for connection and validation from those we care about, especially in intimate relationships. When that connection is suddenly withheld, it can trigger deep-seated fears of abandonment and rejection. People use love withdrawal to gain control, to coerce their partner into apologizing, or to change their behavior to align with the manipulator's desires. By pulling back affection, they aim to make their partner feel insecure and more likely to acquiesce. It's a way to manipulate feelings, akin to a puppet master pulling strings, but with far less charm and far more emotional pain. This strategy often leverages principles related to attachment theory, where the perceived threat of losing connection can activate powerful distress responses. The tricky part is that, over time, this consistent pattern of withholding and demanding submission erodes the very trust and security that healthy relationships are built upon. The partner on the receiving end might start to doubt their self-worth, constantly seeking validation and desperately trying to earn back the affection, creating a vicious cycle. Ultimately, love withdrawal transforms a relationship into an emotional Cold War, where the battles are fought not with missiles but with devastating silence and emotional unavailability, leaving deep scars. Both stonewalling and love withdrawal weaponize a person's fundamental need for connection and communication, transforming deliberate absence into a powerful tool for control and emotional subjugation. Have you ever found a straightforward disagreement between you and someone else suddenly spiraling into a dramatic conflict, complete with a third person who wasn't even involved in the first place? It's like starting a one-on-one chess match, only to discover your opponent has secretly brought in a grandmaster to whisper moves in their ear, totally changing the game. This unexpected twist in dynamics is often the telltale sign of triangulation, a cunning manipulation tactic designed to muddy the waters and shift power. At its heart, triangulation occurs when a manipulator brings a third party into a two-person dynamic, not for mediation, but to stir up drama, validate their own narrative, or intentionally create division. Imagine you and a friend are hashing out a minor disagreement about who picked the last movie night, but instead of resolving it directly, your friend starts recounting your selfishness to another mutual acquaintance, exaggerating your flaws and painting themselves as the wronged party. This third person, who may have only heard one side of the story, is now a pawn in a larger game, forming a distorted support system for the manipulator. This isn't about seeking advice, it's about weaponizing external opinions. Why would someone drag a third person into a private issue? The reasons are often rooted in a desire for control and a fear of direct confrontation. By involving another individual, the manipulator can avoid directly addressing the core problem with you. It's a convenient way to shift the focus, making it seem like the issue isn't just between the two of you, but rather a wider problem with you at its center. This creates an immediate imbalance of power, because it's no longer just your perspective versus theirs. It feels like you're facing an entire cheerleading squad backing them up. Manipulators frequently use triangulation to validate themselves, getting someone else to agree with their point of view, which then makes you question your own judgment, echoing the effects of gaslighting. Research into family systems theory, for instance, often highlights how triangulation can be used to stabilize dysfunctional relationships by deflecting tension between two people onto a third, relieving direct pressure but preventing genuine resolution. They might say, even third person thinks you're being unreasonable, hoping that the perceived consensus will force you to concede. Furthermore, this tactic is incredibly effective at shifting blame. Instead of owning their actions or dealing with an issue head-on, they can point to the third person's agreement as proof that you are the problem. Triangulation also serves a crucial divide-and-conquer purpose. By creating rifts or fostering competition between you and another person, the manipulator makes it harder for others to unite against them.
Think of a workplace scenario.
But what if you
a
could
boss
see the
might
game
lavish
being
one
played?
employee with a significant raise
By
and public
understanding the
praise,
science
while
of behavior,
simultaneously
you
giving
can learn to
other
spot the
equally deserving
tactics and
employees
reclaim
only
your
trivial
clarity.
perks, like pizza parties.
One common tactic
This isn't necessarily
is moving
about
the
merit.
goalposts.
It can be a calculated move to sow jealousy and competition among the team. This kind of behavior keeps employees focused on competing with each other, rather than potentially teaming up to
matter
demand
what you
higher
do,
salaries
the
or better
criteria for
working
success
conditions
or
from the
approval
boss,
mysteriously
ensuring the
changes,
manipulator
keeping
maintains
you
ultimate
perpetually
control.
striving.
It creates an environment where trust is eroded and individuals are too busy looking over their shoulders to recognize the true
This
source of their
constant
collective
shifting
discontent.
of reality can make you
This
feel like
tactic
you're
is
losing
commonly
your mind.
seen in toxic friendships, family dynamics, and
Question
even
your own
high-stakes
sanity in the
professional
heat of an
environments
argument.
where power plays are common. It leaves you feeling confused, isolated,
Join
and
us as we
unfairly
decode
targeted,
these mind
turning
games,
simple
one
interactions
tactic
into
at a time,
complex
and
political
empower you
battles.
to navigate
The
them with
manipulator
confidence.
effectively uses
One of the
others
most
as emotional
insidious
shields
forms of
or
manipulation
offensive
is
weapons,
designed to make you
preventing
question
genuine,
your own
healthy
reality.
communication and making it incredibly
It's
difficult
called
to challenge their
gaslighting.
agenda directly. Triangulation is a manipulative tactic
glad we
that
decided
involves
to
a
stay in
third
tonight.
party in a
This is much
two-person
cozier than
conflict
going out.
to shift
It really
blame,
is. I was
validate the
looking forward to a
manipulator,
quiet
and
evening
create
with you.
division,
The weather
thereby
forecast
maintaining
for tomorrow
control.
is perfect.
After diving
We should
deep into the
finally have that
shadowy
beach
corners
day
of
we talked
psychological
about.
manipulation,
That's a fantastic
seeing
idea.
how
I'm
reality
all
gets
in.
bent and emotions
It's a date.
weaponized, a crucial question emerges. How do
Love
you
the
actually spot these traps in your own life and protect your peace of mind? We've explored the subtle twisting of your memory, the insidious transfer of blame, the overwhelming affection that conceals control, the stony silence, and the strategic deployment of third parties. But recognizing these individual tactics is only the first step. The real power comes from understanding their common threads and building your own resilience against their influence. What unites these diverse forms
Good
of manipulation? At their
I'm all
core, they
packed
all
and ready
hinge
for
on
our
creating
beach
an
day.
imbalance of power, often by undermining your sense of self,
Beach
eroding
day?
your trust in your own perceptions,
What are you
or
talking about?
exploiting your emotional
What do you
needs.
mean?
Whether it's the
planned
gaslighter
it
making
last
you
night,
doubt your
right
Saturday
here,
beach plans,
right here.
the guilt tripper making you
Remember?
feel responsible for their
No,
sadness,
I'm pretty
or the
sure that
love bomber
conversation never
showering you
happened.
with gifts to secure quick
think I'd
devotion.
remember planning
The
to go to
ultimate
the
goal
beach.
is to
Are
gain
you
control
killing me?
over your thoughts,
We were sitting
feelings,
on
and
that
actions.
couch.
This
You said it was a
consistent pursuit of
fantastic
power,
idea.
often at your
Hey,
expense,
are you
is
feeling
the
okay?
red thread running
You've
through
been under
all
a lot of
manipulative
stress.
behaviors,
Maybe you
as
just
detailed
dreamt
in
it,
extensive
or got
behavioral
confused.
psychology literature on coercive control and interpersonal dynamics. They want to be the conductor, and you, the
gaslighting,
unwitting
a malicious
orchestra.
form of psychological
So, how do you
manipulation where a
recognize
person
when
is led to
someone is
question
trying
their
to
own
pull your
memory,
string,
perception,
even
and
when their
sanity?
methods
The term
are subtle?
originates from the
The first and
1944
arguably
film,
most
Gaslight.
important signal is your gut feeling. Does something just feel off? Do you find yourself constantly confused, anxious, or apologetic, even when you haven't done anything wrong?
There.
This persistent emotional
gaslight,
dissonance
it's
is your
dimming
internal
again.
alarm system,
Did you see?
alerting you to an underlying
You're
problem.
imagining it,
Cognitive
my dear.
psychology
The light
suggests
is
that our
perfectly
intuition,
fine.
though not
You
always
must be
consciously
tired.
understood, processes vast amounts of information, often picking up on inconsistencies faster than our rational mind can articulate.
By
Another
consistently
critical
denying
pattern
her
to watch
reality,
for is
he
inconsistency
methodically
between
convinces her
words
she
and
is
actions.
going insane.
Does someone promise you the world with love bombing only to become emotionally distant later? Do they vehemently deny something you both experienced,
You're getting
despite
worked
your
up over
clear
nothing.
memory? These
I think
glaring
you just really
contradictions
wanted to
are
go
not
and your mind
accidental.
filled in the
They are
blanks.
strategic. When someone's narrative constantly shifts or their behavior doesn't match their stated intentions, it's a huge red flag that you're dealing with a reality bender. Furthermore, keep an eye on your own emotional landscape. If you find yourself on a constant emotional
am
roller
I?
coaster, experiencing extreme
What is
highs
this place?
followed by sudden confusing
feel
lows,
so
or
alone
feeling
to
perpetually
dismantle your
guilty,
trust in
even for
yourself.
minor issues, this is a sign that your
more you
emotions
doubt
are being
your own
weaponized
mind,
against you.
The more you rely
Manipulators
on the
also
manipulator
often try to
define
isolate
reality
you.
for you.
They might subtly discourage your relationships with friends
Reality
and
becomes a
family,
prison.
making
The
you more
manipulator needs
dependent on
other
them
ways
for
to protect
social
their
and
fragile
emotional support.
self-image. One
This
of the most
tactic,
common is
often
deflecting
seen in the
fault.
progression of abusive
This happens
relationships,
through two
makes it harder
powerful
for you to get
tactics:
external perspectives
projection
that might
and
challenge the
blame shifting.
manipulator's narrative.
First,
If your social
let's look at
circle seems to
projection.
shrink and you
Accusing
feel
others of the
increasingly
very
reliant on
things you
just
are
one
doing
person,
or feeling.
it's time to take a step back and assess who benefits from this isolation. Building resilience against these insidious tactics starts with awareness. Simply knowing these patterns exist dramatically reduces their power. Once you can name the game, you can stop playing it. The next crucial step is to validate your own experiences and feelings.
You're so clumsy.
Your memory, your
Look what you
emotions,
made me
and your
do.
perceptions are real, regardless of what a manipulator tries to tell you. Trust your gut. If something feels wrong,
What?
it probably is.
I didn't do anything.
This
I was just
self-validation
sitting
is a
here.
powerful
When Alex
antidote to
accuses his
gaslighting
sister
and
of
projection,
clumsiness,
allowing
he
you
is
to
in
anchor
fact
yourself in your
projecting his
own
own
reality.
traits onto her.
Setting clear,
Is
firm
projection.
boundaries is
Instead
also
of
essential,
acknowledging his own
acting
mistake,
as your
Alex
personal
projects
force
the
field
quality,
against
in this
unwanted
case,
influence.
clumsiness,
This
onto his
isn't
sibling.
about being mean, it's about self-preservation. Learning to say no without guilt, communicating your limits, and
Psychological
consistently
defense
enforcing
mechanism
those
that protects
boundaries
the
sends a
manipulator's
clear
ego,
message
leaving
that
the
you
real
won't be
issue
easily
unresolved,
controlled.
and their target feeling
For instance,
confused and
if someone
wrong.
is
A related
stonewalling,
tactic
you can
is
state,
blame shifting,
"I'm willing to
where the
discuss this when
manipulator
you are ready
redirects
to
fault
engage
for their
constructively,"
actions onto
and
someone
then
else.
disengage until they are. If you're dealing with consistent gaslighting, sometimes simply documenting conversations or key events can serve as a vital external record, preventing you from questioning your own memory. Finally, never underestimate the power of seeking support. Reach out to trusted friends, family members, or mental health professionals who can offer an objective perspective and validate
Alex,
your
is
experiences.
everything okay?
Speaking up and sharing
You
your
seem
story
stressed.
breaks the
This was due
manipulator's
yesterday, Chloe.
isolation
How could you
tactic
miss this?
and provides you with crucial external affirmation.
I'm sorry,
Learning
Alex.
to
I've been
strategically
swamped.
detach from
No,
manipulative
it's
cycles,
not okay.
whether by
The
walking away
project
from
report was
arguments
due
that
an
devolve
hour
into
ago.
blame shifting
Why didn't you
or
remind me?
disengaging from a guilt trip, empowers you to reclaim your emotional independence. Prioritizing your emotional and mental well-being, practicing self-care, and consistently reinforcing your self-worth are not luxuries but necessities in navigating complex human interactions with confidence and strength. Understanding these pervasive manipulation tactics is the cornerstone
Instead
of
of taking
protecting your mental
responsibility for his
well-being
own
and
oversight,
reclaiming
Alex
autonomy in your
shifts the blame.
relationships.
He makes
The
his
journey
failure
through these
Chloe's
psychological mind games reveals a profound truth. Understanding how your reality can be twisted is the ultimate shield
This
against
tactic
manipulation.
not only protects
By
the manipulator's
recognizing these
ego,
sneaky
but leaves their
patterns,
target
from
feeling
gaslighting your
anxious,
memories to
guilty, and
weaponizing
unfairly
silence,
accused.
you gain the
Not only
power to
protects
protect
the
your peace of
manipulator's
mind
ego,
and
but leaves
reclaim
their
your
target
agency.
feeling anxious,
You no
guilty,
longer have to
and
question your
unfairly
own memory
accused.
or bear the weight of undeserved guilt when you know exactly what game is being played. This awareness empowers you
Some
to stand
manipulators
firm in your
don't
truth,
use aggression.
no longer bound by
Instead,
their rules.
they weaponize one
If
of our best
demystifying
qualities,
these manipulative
our
tactics
empathy.
empowers you to see the
They
world
play
with a
on our
clearer,
desire
more
to be
critical
kind and
perspective,
supportive,
consider hitting that
turning it
subscribe
into a
button
tool
and
for
joining our
control.
community at M3R Thinking. Your support helps us continue challenging misinformation and unraveling complex human behaviors. What's one manipulation tactic you've encountered that truly caught you off guard? And how did recognizing it change your approach?
This is guilt
Thanks for
tripping.
thinking with us today, and we'll
It's an
catch you in
indirect
the next
way of
one.
stating a need
Coming
or
up,
desire,
we'll expose the subtle ways
making you feel
economic
responsible
principles
for the
silently
manipulator's
shape your daily
emotional
choices,
state.
from that morning coffee to your big investments.